Hey there everybody. Today is Sunday, October 16th. It's a beautiful autumn afternoon, and with the recent rainstorms, the entrance to our street has gotten a little bit murky. We'll zoom in from here. So, sometimes people think that it's the pine trees dying off and that's why they're dropping their needles, but sometimes it's just cypress or a type of pine that drops needles annually. Hold on a sec. There we go. Sometimes it's hard to tell if they're coming from directly behind me up the road. Someone is, actually. And so, this time of year, you'll notice that people are driving in the middle of the road. And it's because we have these drainage channels from the town. And so there's kind of a question when there's this much leaf litter down on the street, as far as, how close can you really get before it's not actually the road. And sometimes, especially at night or after a rain event, these also become really slick. There have been accidents down at the entrance of that road when it was really covered in pine needles. So today, in like an hour and a half, we're just raking up some of the stuff on the ground, putting it into piles, and we'll come back later with the pickup and a bucket, and we'll gather up our piles and take this leaf litter home, and on the way, see if any of the neighbors would like, a street side trash barrel full of leaves for any of their gardens or any of their projects. So I have a little pile right here at the base of my feet. It's a little tough to, oh, there we go. Tough to see. I know the image flattens considerably. Due to the pitch of this section of the road, there's often a lot in the channel itself. And so this particular stretch doesn't get too bad, but you can see kind of a line where I did gather up some of the leaves on this section. So we'll come back in just a moment and then show you guys what the road looks like after I'm done. And then we'll take a quick gander at where I'm putting this stuff. So catch you in a minute. All right, it's about 15-20 minutes later. And you can see how much more road there is. The initial bits were all the way to there. And so, take a little mosey. You can see very clearly the site and the definition of some of these piles that I have created on the side of the road here. And so, each of these will be loaded up into the truck and given to neighbors who want it, or put on our gardens. But you can see from here just how much of the road was absolutely covered in the pine needles, and now the cover is light enough that cars entering the roadway will be able to blow the rest of them over to the side of the street, and that should help to keep this roadway a little safer for everybody, make it so that as they travel up the road, folks are not having to hug the middle, and it doesn't force the kids in the neighborhood to have to use the middle of the road for their bicycles and their skateboards and their bodyboards and such. So yeah, we've still got the other end of the road to do, but one of the reasons I'm comfortable using this material in our gardens is that there are fewer than 18 houses on our street. And so we have very, very little road traffic. You gotta pick up your tools. Make sure you don't leave them. And so this is just, part and parcel. If you're the weird gardener, if you're the one in your neighborhood that really, really appreciates a feral looking garden. Doing small things like this. I have to do this little section here too. I just noticed those blow in. If you're that weird person whose garden aesthetics don't line up with the neighbors, little things like this can help grease those wheels, give them something else to consider about you, such as, wow, this guy or gal just goes out of their way to keep the neighborhood a little cleaner and safer, and maybe they're not so bad after all. And those little interpersonal inroads will really help you to build the community of neighbors and collaborators, bartering and tool sharing partners that sometimes is missing from modern suburban life. So yeah, we're gonna clean up this little section here. There's probably like 2 feet of road, foot and a half, 2 feet of road that I could clear right in there. And yeah, we'll keep going, and we'll check back in with you when I'm moving some of it into position in the gardens. Hey there, everybody. We're back. It's a little bit later. There's a lot of activity in the neighborhood. Several of the neighbors are either in the process of selling their house or getting ready to be selling their house. What you're looking at is 3 truck bed loads of the pine needles and leaf material that we've pulled from the road. There's a rake stuck in there. But so I haven't even made it to the end of the road, between chatting with the neighbors and catching up and talking about what we're doing with this. And one of our neighbors is interested in having some of this, but wanted to know what we're going to do with it. And so, Susan, if you're watching, part of this video is inspired by you being such a great neighbor. We love you. So we'll come over here and we'll take a look at some things. And what I have are it's tough to see. I have a whole stack of newspapers from our local area because I like to stay involved and engaged with what's going on in my community. But so there's a New Jersey tea that is a little tough to see. There's a little maple or some kind of thing coming in. It's not one of my cherries, and it's not my Ceanothus americanus, but it has 2 different leaf shapes. It looks like a maple, but then it doesn't look like a maple. And so it might be 2 things. Is it 2 things? It's 2 different things growing right next to each other. So, well, it's definitely a maple and something else. Maybe it's another New Jersey tea? Maybe. We're gonna put these newspapers down around. You'll notice a whole lot of sheep sorrel coming in. Most of the mulch that we threw earlier this year has already been devoured by the soil microbiota and microorganisms and the macroorganisms and turned into fertile ground. But I'd like to have a little bit more higher order production in this space sitting under this fir tree. And so that's what we're going to do today. And I'll be right back once we have some paper down. Alright, so we have all of our newspapers spread out. We have one surrounding the New Jersey tea. We have some coming around this little mystery duo. One of them's maple. I'm not 100% sure what the other one is. It kinda looks like a New Jersey tea, but it doesn't. Unsure. Maybe one of you guys knows. But, so, we've gone around. I know there's a little gap right there, but I have some strawberries that are growing, so I want to let them come through. And I want to give it a little bit of breathing room to the main trunk and the main stem of the Nanking cherry. And so, what we're going to do is we'll load up that barrel with some of this pine mulch and be back in just a second. And there you have it. This is 4 of this, I guess, 40-gallon trash bin. I like the one with the handles. I'll often, when I'm loading this guy up, show you guys this real quick. The easiest way to do it, and the best way to stretch your back doing this, because if you're pulling all of this material with you on the street and doing this sort of thing, I come up and I brace it, straddle it, and then you can bend over, stretch your calves, stretch your legs, stretch your lower back, and pull it right into the barrel. And then you just kind of walk it forward and pull the next bit in. That way, you're keeping your back fresh and you're not killing yourself. It's a really good way to kind of help get those hip flexors, your psoas, or whatever it's called, however you say it. But so now that I have the weed barrier down in the form of the newspaper, placed around my important plants, and the pine needles, which, as we know, don't actually increase acidity in the soil, we now have all of this lovely, lovely material to insulate the root zones here and to provide food for all of the soil organisms that will be overwintering in this space. You'll see during thaw periods, or when there's little snow after the grass has kind of senesced back for the season, you'll find tiny little mounds poking up with a hole in the top, and sometimes you'll find pine needles and things pulled around them, and that's earthworms and other worms pulling the pine needles into the hole that they make so that they have a little underground snack. And then they poop it out, and they can move tons per year of soil. And so we have clearly 3 truckloads-ish, 3.5 truckloads-ish left in that pile already. And tomorrow I will be gathering up the rest of what's gathered up on the side of the street. And yeah, this is the state that the gardens are in at the moment. The only one that has not gotten a fresh cover of wood chip mulch this season is this one with the pear and the Wolf's River apple with all of the chocolate mint, and the comfrey and the raspberry up there. I'll zoom for you. And so these guys, this bed up here that you can see, that's the only one that hasn't gotten a fresh load of compost or mulch. And so we'll be coming in. It looks like I can start coming at the Jerusalem artichokes. And then this year is the year that the plums get trained, and we'll probably do some training on the peaches and the pears as well. But yeah, we made a connection this weekend with a crew that does yard care and yard cleanup professionally. And so we're looking forward to yet another friendship and allyship in bulking material out of municipal waste yards and putting it towards food producing and medicine producing plants. And so I'll be excited to show you guys more as I finish up the project in the neighborhood and get some of these beds finalized for winter. But I hope this little quick rough and dirty on sheet mulching has been helpful. Some of you may be wondering if I'm concerned about dyes or the inks that are used in those newspapers, or some of the shiny paper. You can feel, on the shiny paper at least, you can feel a difference between the ones that are kind of plastic encased or infused and the ones that are shiny because of the Kaolin clay. Again, speller, not a pronouncer. But so some of them you can feel that textural difference. And for a lot of the inks that are used in newspapers, it's far cheaper to use honestly, like organic materials like soy-based inks for blacks and gray tones, iron oxide for the reds, and natural dyes and pigments. It's actually far more cost effective to use those. So, you know, if it's your local newspaper, they're generally happy to have engagement from a constituent reader. So don't be afraid to call them up and say, hey, what are the materials you use if you use color articles or color pictures? What do you guys put in your paper? I'm a lifelong reader and supporting the paper. And so this is what we put that towards after it's done its job, informing us on the ongoings of our community and the ways that we can be civically engaged. So, yeah, get out there, do some good deeds, and do well because of them. Till next time, folks. Thanks for watching. Happy planting.